I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are a commercial truck driver.
Okay.
Like you've had a DOT violation. Maybe it was a failed random screen or maybe an alcohol violation. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, it definitely happened.
Right. But you did the work to make it right. You've spent thousands of dollars out of your own pocket. You've attended every single mandated counseling session. You've taken all the education classes.
You put in the time.
Exactly. And so you sit down with your substance abuse professional, your SAP, and they look you in the eye and say, you have successfully complied with the program.
Oh, that must be such a relief.
A massive sigh of relief. You think, I'm done. You expect your FMCSA clearinghouse status to just immediately flip to green so you can get back behind the wheel and actually earn a living again.
Right, time to get back to work.
But then you log in and it still says prohibited.
Oof. It is easily probably one of the most heartbreaking moments a driver can face. They feel like they've been completely lied to.
Totally. And that exact moment, like that gap between thinking you are done
Yeah.
and actually being legally allowed to drive,
Yeah.
that is our mission for this deep dive.
That's a huge issue.
It really is. We are tackling one of the most frustrating and honestly expensive bottlenecks in the commercial trucking industry. Why do so many drivers get stuck at the very end of the SAP process?
Because they hit a false finish line.
A false finish line. Okay, let's unpack this. We're using this really comprehensive guide today as our source. It's called Don't Stop One Step Too Soon, Completing the Return to Duty Test.
It's just such a perfect title, honestly.
Right, because terminology is everything here. So what is the actual difference between finishing the SAP program and finishing the return to duty process? Because to a driver who just spent, 2 months in classes, those sound like the exact same thing.
They really do, but legally, they're just miles apart.
How so?
Well, SAP successful compliance simply means the counselor has evaluated you and decided you've met their educational or treatment requirements. That's it.
Just the requirements.
Right. When they sign off, they are only determining that you are eligible for a return to duty test under federal regulations. Just eligibility.
Okay, so it's basically a permission slip.
That is a perfect way to look at it. It is just a permission slip. The SAP does not have the administrative power to, log into the federal database and change your status to not prohibited.
Right, they can't do that.
No, they are simply putting you on the next to last step of the staircase. Taking and passing a federally regulated return to duty drug or alcohol test, the RTD test, that is the final step.
And this is where the communication just completely breaks down. There's this real-life story from the guide about a driver named Anthony.
Oh, Anthony's situation is so common.
It really is. So Anthony finishes his SAP education. The SAP tells him, you're eligible for return to duty testing. So Anthony goes home, and he just waits.
He assumes the SAP is handling the logistics.
Exactly. He waits a week, 2 weeks, a whole month. He's sitting on his couch losing thousands of dollars in wages.
Just waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah. Finally, he calls his SAP, super frustrated, asking, hey, when is my drug test scheduled? And the SAP basically says, I don't schedule your employer's test. That's not my job.
What's fascinating here is that the SAP is completely accurate from a regulatory standpoint, but is just incredibly jarring for the driver.
I would be furious.
Oh, absolutely. Because in almost any other setting, like your doctor or a regular counselor, they guide you all the way through to the very end of the process.
Right. They don't just leave you hanging.
Exactly. But the DOT process intentionally separates the evaluation from the execution. The SAP is an evaluator. They are just a judge of your compliance.
So they aren't managing the logistics.
No, they are not a dispatcher, and they're certainly not your employer. Their jurisdiction ends the exact second they determine your eligibility.
It's like getting a prescription for an antibiotic.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, the SAP is the doctor writing the script. But you don't just go home and sit on the couch expecting the pills to magically materialize in your bathroom cabinet.
You're right, you have to take that slip to the pharmacy.
Exactly. So in this scenario, if the SAP is the doctor writing the slip, who is the pharmacy, who is actually responsible for ordering the physical drug test?
The employer.
The employer, okay.
Yes. Under DO2 rules, the employer or their designated consortium third-party administrator, which we just call a CTPA.
Right, CTPA.
Yeah, they are the entity that must direct the RTD test.
The employer controls the testing process.
Now, I can totally see where a proactive driver might go wrong here. Let's say I'm in Anthony's shoes. I finally realize the SAP isn't going to order my test.
Right.
And I want to get back to work tomorrow. My natural instinct would be to just bypass the employer entirely, drive down to a local urgent care, and just pay for a test myself.
I mean, it makes logical sense.
Yeah, why wait on a company to do it if I can afford the $60,
Right. Because doing that will waste your time, it'll waste your money, and it will keep you in prohibited status. The guide calls this the DIY disaster.
Well, wait, if I pass the test, I pass the test, right? A clean cup is a clean cup.
Not to the federal government?
Yeah, let's look at another scenario from the source. We'll call him Brian.
Okay, what does Brian do?
So Brian Googles drug test near me, walks into a random strip mall clinic, pays out of pocket for a standard 5-panel test, and passes it.
Okay, great.
He thinks so. He hands that negative result to a trucking company's safety manager, but the motor carrier rejects it instantly.
And Brian probably gets super angry because he feels he just proved he's clean.
Exactly.
But why do they reject it? What makes Brian's test different from the one the employer orders?
It comes down to the chain of custody and the strict regulatory procedures.
Okay, so it's a paperwork thing.
It's a huge paperwork thing. A personal drug screen from a local clinic is not a DOT-regulated test. The Department of Transportation requires a very specific federal drug testing custody and control form.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the collection process is different, the lab requirements are different, and the reporting mechanisms are completely different. So a non-DOT workplace test or a personal off-the-street test literally does not exist in the eyes of the FMCSA.
So a driver cannot legally order their own return-to-duty test.
Correct.
The employer absolutely has to do it.
The employer has to order a specific, federally regulated return-to-duty test.
Okay, so Brian tried to take a shortcut, and it completely blew up in his face.
Mhm.
How is a driver supposed to handle this when applying for a new job then?
You have to be strategic.
Because if I walk into an interview and just say, hey, I had a drug violation, can you fix my clearinghouse? I mean, I'm probably getting a show the door right then and there.
You definitely are. You need to speak the language of a safety manager.
How so?
Consider another driver from the guide. Let's call her Jennifer. She gets fired after a violation. She completes her SAP program and applies to a new carrier.
Okay.
During her interview, she doesn't hide from the issue, but she also doesn't just dump the problem in their lap. She says, I have completed my SAP requirements. My clearinghouse status reflects that I am eligible for return-to-duty testing.
Wow.
And then she says, I need an employer-directed RTD test to complete the process.
That is incredibly specific.
It has to be. By saying that, Jennifer is showing the safety manager that she understands the federal regulations.
She's proving she's a professional.
Exactly. She isn't asking them to figure it out for her. Because they are a motor carrier subject to DOT regulations, they know exactly what to do with that information.
Right.
They can legally direct her RTD test, get the negative result back, and hire her. She gets the job because she removed all the administrative friction for the employer.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. That brings up a massive catch-22.
Oh, the no employer trap.
Yes. Jennifer was lucky enough to find a carrier willing to listen and sponsor her test. What if you can't?
It happens a lot.
Think about it. You get fired for a violation. You pay for the SAP. You get your eligibility. But every single trucking company you apply to says, well, we only hire drivers who have a clear record. Call us back when your clearinghouse status is not prohibited.
It's basically the infinite loop of the trucking industry.
Right. Because you can't get not prohibited until a company sponsors your test. But no company will sponsor your test because you aren't not prohibited.
It's incredibly frustrating.
I mean, there's this story of a driver, Robert. He applies to 5, 6, 7 companies. He gets rejected by all of them, and he just quits the industry. He thinks his career is permanently over because no one will test him.
And that is a real tragedy because there is actually a specific mechanism designed by the FMCSA to break this exact bottleneck.
Wait, really?
Yes, it's highly misunderstood, but it exists. If you do not have a current employer and you cannot find a prospective employer willing to send you for the test, you can register in the FMCSA clearinghouse as an owner-operator.
Whoa, hold on. A register as an owner-operator. Does that mean I have to go, like, incorporate a business, buy a truck, and apply for a U.S. DOT number?
No.
Because that sounds wildly expensive just to take a drug test.
That is a crucial distinction. Do not go apply for a full U.S. DOT number.
Okay, good.
You are simply utilizing the owner-operator portal within the clearinghouse website itself. Oh, I see.
Yeah, once you register under that specific portal, the system allows you to designate a CTPA. Remember, a consortium third-party administrator.
Basically, a drug testing management company.
Exactly. You designate them for the limited purpose of completing your return-to-duty process.
Okay.
In this scenario, the CTPA essentially acts as your surrogate employer. They legally direct the RTD test on your behalf, And when you pass, they are authorized to report that negative result to the federal database.
And that finally changes your status to not prohibited.
You got it.
That is brilliant. It completely bypasses the need for a trucking company to take a chance on you before you're legally cleared.
It's a lifesaver for so many drivers.
But let me push back on this a little bit. If I pay this third-party company to act as my employer, and I finally get hired by a real trucking company, can I just keep using that CTPA?
What do you mean?
Like, can I just have them manage all my own randoms and follow-up tests forever so my new bias doesn't have to deal with it?
Absolutely not. That is a hard boundary in the regulations. Why not? If the CTPA is federally recognized, why can't they just manage my file?
Because the CTPA loophole is strictly designed to clear that initial RTD bottleneck so you can become employable again.
Just a temporary fix.
Right. Once you actually get hired and resume driving a commercial vehicle, your new motor carrier must take over. Under the law, the employer who is actively dispatching you is responsible for your safety and compliance.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they become responsible for implementing whatever follow-up testing plan your SAP designed. You cannot use a third party to hide your mandated follow-up tests from your active employer.
Got it. So the CTPA is just a bridge to get you back to employable status.
Exactly, a bridge.
Okay, so let's say you navigate all of that. You find an employer, or you use the CTPA bridge, you finally get the test properly scheduled, you walk into the clinic.
And a big day.
Yeah, you're probably feeling amazing thinking the nightmare is finally over. But then, something happens in that clinic that absolutely shocks veteran drivers.
Ooh, this creates so much conflict. Under federal DOT rules, return-to-duty drug tests require direct observation.
I want to make sure everyone hears that clearly. Direct observation, meaning a clinic employee goes into the bathroom with you and physically watches you provide the urine sample.
Yes, they are literally required to watch the urine go from your body into the cup.
Wow.
And if a driver does not know this is coming, the reaction in the clinic can be explosive.
I mean, I would be furious. Let's talk about a hypothetical veteran driver from the examples, Marcus.
Marcus is a tough case.
Right. He's been driving for 20 years. He's taken dozens of standard, unobserved, random DOT drug tests in his career, completely normally.
Just goes in a stall, closes the door?
Exactly. But he walks in for this RTD test, and the collector says, okay, I need to come in the stall with you. Marcus feels like his dignity is being stripped away.
Naturally.
He gets angry, yells at the collector, and storms out of the clinic. What just happened to Marcus?
Well, by walking out of that clinic, Marcus just earned himself a brand new DOT refusal to test violation.
You're kidding. He resets the entire process.
Completely resets it. Everything he just went through, the thousands of dollars, the weeks of counseling, the SAP approval, all of it is wiped out.
Oh, man.
He has a new violation, and he has to start the entire SAP process over from day one, all because nobody warned him about the observation rule.
Why does the DOT mandate this? It feels incredibly invasive. I mean, it feels like they are treating the driver like a criminal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it isn't personal. It is purely based on statistical risk.
Risk of cheating.
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of tampering. The DOT knows that the highest statistical probability of someone trying to substitute synthetic urine or trying to tamper with a sample comes from a driver who has already had a prior violation.
Right.
A driver who has been out of work for months and who is absolutely desperate to get their livelihood back.
So the stakes are higher for them.
The incentive to cheat is at its absolute peak during a return-to-duty test. So, to protect the integrity of the federal testing program, they mandate direct observation.
Okay, when you explain the logic, it does make sense. The government has to ensure the public is safe.
Right.
But if I'm standing in a sterile clinic and a total stranger tells me to drop my pants, logic is just going out the window.
Which is exactly why knowing this before you walk through the clinic doors is so critical.
Right.
If you know it's a federal requirement and not just, a weird clinic employee messing with you, you can mentally prepare for it.
Right, you take a deep breath.
Yeah, you leave your ego in the truck, go in, do what needs to be done, and get your career back.
You also need to know exactly what kind of test you're taking, right? Because a lot of drivers just walk up to the counter and say, hey, I'm here for my DOT test.
That's a really great point. RTD tests are specific to your original violation.
So they aren't just generic tests.
No. If you failed a drug test, you need a negative drug test to return. If you had an alcohol violation, you need an alcohol test with a result below 0.02.
Got it.
And in some cases, depending on the situation, the SAP will actually require both. And the clinic won't magically know which one you need.
Oh, that could be bad.
Yeah, the employer ordering the test needs to know exactly what your SAP prescribed, or you might take the wrong test and basically waste everyone's time.
Okay, so you confirm the right test, you endure the direct observation, you pass,
Yeah.
you leave the clinic, you walk out to your car, you pull out your phone, you log into the FMCSA clearinghouse, and the screen is still red.
Still says prohibited.
Yes, still prohibited. Now you're fully panicking. What is going on here? Welcome to the bureaucratic waiting game.
Drivers literally drive themselves crazy over this because they don't understand the reporting chain.
Where's the disconnect?
They think the medical review officer, the MRO at the lab, reports the negative result straight to the clearinghouse.
Which honestly makes logical sense.
Right.
The MRO is the federal doctor who verifies the science of the test. Why wouldn't they just click a button and update the database?
Because the DOT regulations place the reporting burden on the employer or the CTPA who ordered the test. The MRO reports the result to the employer first. Then the employer has up to 3 business days after they receive that verified result to upload it to the clearinghouse.
Wait, why does the DOT do it that way? Why put the employer right in the middle?
It comes down to liability and the chain of command. The DOT holds the motor carrier ultimately responsible for the safety of the driving public.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, the MRO is just a medical contractor. The motor carrier is the entity that is actually going to put that driver behind the wheel of a 40,000-pound vehicle.
Right.
Therefore, the motor carrier must be the one to officially receive the result, verify it, and take the administrative action to stamp it in the federal portal.
Okay, so let's look at how this plays out in the real world. We see drivers losing their minds over this gap. Let's take Tina.
Okay, what happens with Tina?
So Tina finishes her test. The clinic employee casually mentions, hey, the quick read looks negative.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Tina immediately starts calling recruiters saying she's clear. But the recruiters look her up and say, no, you're still prohibited.
And she probably starts an argument.
Exactly. She gets into screaming matches with recruiters, insisting the clinic cleared her.
But the thing is, both sides are actually telling the truth.
How so?
The sample was clean, she did pass. But her employer hasn't received the official MRO verification yet, and they haven't uploaded it.
And then you have someone like David. David takes his test on a Monday morning. He expects his status to flip by Monday afternoon.
Oh, David is not going to have a good week.
Right. Because the lab transit takes a day, the MRO review takes a day, the employer gets the result on Wednesday, and only then does the employer's 3 business day clock start.
Exactly.
It might be the following Monday before the portal actually updates. David is refreshing his phone every single hour, having a slow-motion panic attack because he totally misunderstands the timeline.
You really just have to let the bureaucracy work. And speaking of panic attacks, we have to talk about the negative dilute result.
Yes, this is huge. Let's talk about Sarah. Sarah waits a few days, she gets a notification, and her test result comes back as negative dilute.
Oh boy.
She goes into a full tailspin. She thinks a dilute result means she failed, that the DOT thinks she was trying to flush her system with water, and that she has to start the whole SAP process over again.
It is a terrifying phrase to see on a medical document, but Sarah didn't need to panic.
Why not?
The FMCSA explicitly states that a negative dilute RTD result is legally reported to the clearinghouse as a negative result. It fulfills the requirement.
Wait, really? So she passed?
She passed. Drivers often try to play doctor and interpret lab terminology themselves, which just leads to stress.
Right.
If it says negative, even with a dilute tag attached to it, the RTD requirement is legally met.
This entire section just highlights how maddening the paperwork is.
Yeah.
But it also emphasizes something critical, which is personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
You cannot just blindly trust that the clinic, the lab, the MRO, and the safety manager are all communicating perfectly. I mean, files get dropped. Emails go to spam.
Human error is a real thing.
Exactly. You have to log into the clearinghouse yourself and verify that your status has changed. Because honestly, nobody cares about your career as much as you do.
That is the truth. You must verify that the status has officially flipped from prohibited to not prohibited.
Right. So you wait the days out, you refresh the browser, the clearinghouse finally flashes green, it says not prohibited, you did it.
Finally.
You grab your keys, run out to the yard, fire up a commercial truck, and hit the highway, right?
If you do that, you might actually get arrested.
Wait, what? Welcome to the double padlock.
Oh, this is a big one.
This is relatively new, and it is catching so many people off guard. As of November 18th, 2024, the Clearinghouse 2 rule went into effect. How did this change the game?
It fundamentally changed enforcement. Before Clearinghouse 2, the federal database and state driver's license agencies were, well, they were somewhat siloed. They didn't really talk to each other quickly.
Okay.
But now, state driver licensing agencies, the SDLAs, are legally required to query the clearinghouse. Yeah. If they see a driver is in a prohibited status, the state must proactively remove their commercial driving privileges. They downgrade your physical CDL to just a regular driver's license.
Meaning, not prohibited in the federal computer system does not magically reinstate your physical CDL at your local DMV.
Exactly. That is the critical disconnect right there.
So it's two separate systems.
Yes. Think about a driver like Kevin. Kevin sees not prohibited in his federal portal. He's thrilled. He jumps in a rig and takes a load across state lines.
Okay, what happens, Kevin?
He gets pulled over for a random inspection, and the trooper tells him he is driving a commercial vehicle without a valid commercial license.
Because of the downgrade.
Right. His state downgraded his CDL weeks ago when the violation happened, and Kevin never went to his state licensing agency to undergo their specific reinstatement process.
He unlocked the federal padlock, but he completely forgot the state padlock was still firmly in place.
It's a painful lesson.
You have to check both. You have to go physically handle the DMV side of things.
Yeah.
But even after you fix your license, the ghost of the SAP process
Yeah.
is still haunting you, right?
Yeah.
Because there are follow-up tests.
Yes, the follow-ups. Getting to not prohibited just means you can legally drive again, but the consequences of your original violation, they continue for years. Yeah, you face a mandatory follow-up testing plan. The DOT regulations require a minimum of 6 unannounced follow-up tests in your first 12 months back performing safety-sensitive duties.
That's a lot of testing.
And that's just the minimum. Your SAP can require tests to continue for up to 5 years.
Which brings us to Amanda.
Oh, Amanda's story.
Amanda gets her negative RTD test, she gets her CDL reinstated, and she is just so happy it's over that she literally throws all her SAP paperwork into a dumpster.
She just wants to move on.
Right. She thinks she is completely free. But she forgets that her new employer is legally required to administer her strict follow-up testing plan. When the new safety manager asks for her SAP records to build her testing schedule, she has absolutely nothing to give them.
And that employer cannot legally let her drive without that paperwork. It raises an important question, though. With the false finish lines, the CTPA owner-operator workarounds, the shock of direct observation, the 3-day MRO reporting windows, state CDL downgrades, and multi-year follow-up plans.
Yeah.
How does a normal driver possibly keep all of this straight without losing their mind?
Well, you have to treat it like a professional project.
Yeah.
The guide talks about this hypothetical gold standard driver we can look at. Let's call him Eric.
Eric is the model student.
Eric isn't some corporate angel who never makes mistakes. But once he got his violation, he decided to attack the bureaucracy with absolute surgical precision.
Eric is the perfect example of how to actually survive this. He doesn't rely on assumptions. He writes down the exact date his SAP says he's eligible.
Is tracking it.
Right. He logs into the clearinghouse that same night to verify the entry exists. He personally contacts his prospective employer's safety department and uses the correct terminology to arrange the DOT-regulated RTD test.
He knows direct observation is mandatory, so he doesn't freak out and earn a refusal at the clinic. He just takes the test, he waits calmly for the 3-day reporting window, and he checks his own clearinghouse status.
He's managing the whole process himself.
Exactly. And once it says, not prohibited, he doesn't jump straight into a truck. He goes to his state DMV and ensures his CDL is fully reinstated. And crucially, he saves every single piece of SAP paperwork in a dedicated physical folder to hand to his new employer for the follow-up plan.
Eric didn't get a special, lenient SAP. He didn't get a magical fast track through the federal government.
No.
He just understood the mechanics of the bureaucracy and took complete ownership of moving himself from one step to the next.
So bringing this all together, what does this all mean for a driver listening to this right now?
It's all about ownership.
It really is. It's radical ownership. Your livelihood is in your hands. Do not stop running when the SAP tells you that you are eligible, because that is a false finish line. You only stop when the RTD test is completed, your clearinghouse portal glows green, and your state has officially restored your CDL.
I want to leave anyone going through this process with a final thought, looking just a bit beyond the regulations themselves.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about how motor carriers usually view drivers who have a past drug or alcohol violation. Naturally, it's often seen as a red flag, right?
Yeah, a huge liability.
But if you navigate this incredibly complex, frustrating maze with the precision of an organized professional, think about how that looks to them.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
If you walk into an interview knowing exactly what needs to happen, citing how the CTPA process works, communicating your federal status perfectly, and handing the safety manager a beautifully organized file of your documentation, you don't look like a liability anymore.
You look like a professional who handles their business.
Exactly. You look like the most responsible, resilient, detail-oriented person in that waiting room. You can actually use this grueling administrative nightmare to prove your reliability to a future employer.
You can turn your biggest career hurdle into an absolute flex in the interview room.
That's exactly right.
I love that perspective. Listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Do not leave your career up to assumption. Take the wheel on your own compliance and make sure you cross the actual finish line.